It's been nearly 3 decades since Evil got all residential, so let's call it back from the top. Hey, it's Game Rant, and here's every Resident Evil game in order of release. Starting off, we have the very first Resident Evil on March 22nd, 1996. Pretty much every factoid from the Sweet Home Origins or Resident Evil has been told to death, but one overlooked aspect is that the story takes place in 1998, meaning this took place in the future for a couple of years. Random. Yeah. That was followed by Resident Evil 2 on January 21st, 1998. Double the protagonists and a whole zombified city. One of the best sequels of all time, saw a complete cast change, but newcomers Leon Kennedy, Claire Redfield, and Ada Wong would only join the growing cast. This was followed by Resident Evil 3 Nemesis on September 22nd, 1999. Originally envisioned as a spin-off, contractual obligations required Capcom to pivot Nemesis into a numbered title. Jill Valentine returned in this action-packed take on the classic pre-rendered era, concluding the PS1 trilogy. That was followed by Resident Evil Survivor on January 27th, 2000. But wait, there's one more on the Sony console, a light gun adventure game which truly attempted something original with the series, or video games in general. Critics and fans were quick to sink the concept. That was followed by Resident Evil Code Veronica on February 3rd, 2000. Originally envisioned as a numbered title, contractual obligations required Capcom to pivot Code Veronica into a spin-off. Claire Redfield returned in this action-packed take, introducing the fully rendered era, concluding the Dreamcast One-ology. This was followed by Resident Evil Survivor 2 Code Veronica on November 8th, 2001. Fans seemed to appreciate this refined version of the Survivor format, which was far more considered in its adaptation rather than attempting to reinvent the series. But this one never came to North America. And then there's Resident Evil Gaiden on December 14th, 2001. Finally, a game of Barry's own. You remember Barry, right? Jill's partner from part 1? No, you don't? Dang. Well, Barry's always getting short shrift, but now he's got his own game on the Game Boy Color. And it's no longer canon. Sorry, Care Bear. That was followed by Resident Evil Remake on March 22nd, 2002. Who exactly was asking for this? Nobody. But only a handful of years after the series started to exist, the first entry was remade on the Nintendo GameCube, showing just how visually impressive the console could be. That was followed by Resident Evil Zero on November 12th, 2002. So far, the only prequel game in the series, Zero lets look at the closer origins of the Spencer Mansion and the Umbrella Corporation, while blasting back bugs with Rebecca Chambers and series one-timer Billy Cohen. This was followed by Resident Evil Dead Aim on February 13th, 2003, and you know something was up when they squashed the Survivor subtitle. Dead Aim was the third entry in all but name, but arguably it perfected the modest ambitions of being a first-person light gun survivor horror game. That was followed by Resident Evil Outbreak on December 11th, 2003. You know what's worse than the T-virus? A computer virus. The first multiplayer entry was a work in progress, and survivor horror online still really isn't an established genre. Players found the realistic characters just too dang weak. That was followed by, you guessed it, Resident Evil Outbreak File 2 on September 9th, 2004. So guess what? Not much has changed. Sure, it's just a content refresh, but it's more or less a big old expansion for a game that never quite worked in the first place. We dare you to learn the chat system. That was followed up by Resident Evil 4 on January 11th, 2005. As a piece of a larger franchise, it is far too easy to overlook the contributions of Part 4 and what it gave to video game design. After 3 concealed attempts, Shinji Mikami reinvented the third-person shooter forever. That was followed by Resident Evil The Umbrella Chronicles on November 13th, 2007. Finally, Capcom did what everyone wanted out of Gun Survivor and got rid of all the Survivor bits. Less interesting? Sure. More approachable? Absolutely. It's a breezy recap of the series' nonsense story so far. That was followed by Resident Evil 5 on March 5th, 2009. Chris Redfield took to the African continent in what was seen as a controversial move for the series for a variety of reasons. If it's remembered fondly for anything, it's the introduction of co-op. That was followed by Resident Evil The Dark Side Chronicles on November 17th, 2009. A follow-up to the Umbrella Chronicles, this further expanded the story, taking place between the dissolution of the Umbrella Corporation and the start of Resident Evil 4, as well as Resident Evil 0 and the remake. That was followed by Resident Evil The Mercenaries 3D. Originally created as an additional mode, The Mercenaries was treated as a full-fledged game when it launched on the 3DS. Did critics think it was a full game? Nope. No, they did not. That was followed by Resident Evil Revelations on January 26, 2012. And man, talk about a make good. Revelations not only restored faith for 3DS users, its slower horror-driven gameplay gave fans exactly what they were missing, helping the series find its horror roots. That was followed by Resident Evil Operation Raccoon City on March 20th, 2012. So what if instead of just shooting monsters, you played as a SWAT-style hunk team and just shot at humans? Well, you'd get Operation Raccoon City, a game which failed to remotely meet its contemporaries in controls or polish. Bleh. That was followed by Resident Evil 6 on October 2nd, 2012. This was the spiraling point, rock bottom. Few knew what to make out of Part 6, but even fewer could recommend it. A bloated mess with few enjoyable sections. It's widely considered a series low point. That was followed by Resident Evil Revelations 2, well, at least the full version, which was released on March 18th, 2015. Joining the world of episodic games, remember those? Capcom finally gave Barry a game of his own. This game further cemented the return to survival horror, and it has surprisingly good local co-op. That was followed by Umbrella Corps on June 21st, 2016. This point is so low it is below the ground. A third-person online shooter, Umbrella Corps had some inspired speed and chaos, but its central mechanic lacked any cohesion with the general objectives or level design. Bleh. That was followed by Resident Evil 7 Biohazard on January 24th, 2017. The birth of the modern era. This is the one that brought players right into the face of the Baker family. Supernatural monster people who like to eat rotting food. Horror was back, and this time, there was nowhere to hide. That was followed by Resident Evil 2 The Remake on January 25th, 2019. Following a long request from fans, Capcom finally went back and perfectly translated the geography of Resident Evil 2's campaign and brought it to modern consoles, introducing a new string of spin-offs. That was followed by Resident Evil 3, another remake, on April 3rd, 2020. The original is overlooked in some ways despite being a major success in creating characters adapted into movies, and likewise, this remake is overlooked. Nemesis in his full hunking glory never looked so scary. That was followed up by Resident Evil Resistance on April 3rd, 2020. A what-if scenario taking place in 1998 Raccoon City. This multiplayer game, never a good sign, sees the likes of Jill Valentine and new cover Martin Sandwich work together to survive masterminds like Alex Wesker and Oswell Spencer. Nope. That was followed by Resident Evil Village, or Resident Evil 8 if you'd like, on May 7th, 2021. Surprised that Ethan Winters guy from Resident Evil 7 is back, and he's trapped in some weirdo goth warehouse party. This has a lot of Zero and Part 1 in its pacing and tone. A real series highlight. That was followed by Resident Evil Reverse on October 27th, 2022. This is the multiplayer component to Village, which saw players battle it out over the iconography of the franchise history, and as a surprise to no one, Steam Deathmatch gameplay was considered bad. Mediocre. Stop trying this. That was followed by Resident Evil 4, the remake, on March 24, 2023. This remake really can't match the importance of the first game, and thankfully it doesn't really seem to care. Instead, it's a more modern take complete with extra side missions and advanced movement. It's a darn good time that'll work well for players new and old. And there you have it. That is every single Resident Evil game in order of release. How you feeling? Itchy? Tasty? We'll keep clicking around here in Game Rant, and we'll see you next time.